Hello and welcome to our bi-weekly coaching call. It's Martha Van Berkel and I'm joined today by my co-founder, Mark Van Berkel.
Hi.
We have an exciting agenda today. We've been getting lots of questions about services pages. So not just local businesses that sell products through e-commerce, but how do you also optimize service pages? So we're going to go through today in quite a lot of detail around services pages. And then we're really excited to also share some new features that have been added to Schema app and our updated roadmap. There's a couple things we've kicked off that I believe you will be really excited about. So let's go ahead and with no further ado, just have a look at our agenda. So this week's coaching call will be just like the others in that we'll start by spending the first half of it sharing and going deep into a topic. And like I said, we're going to really focus now on services pages. And then we'll use the second half of the coaching call for you to ask your questions. So you'll see a chat box and you can go ahead and ask your questions there. After we go through that Q&A, we'll just take about 5 or 6 minutes at the end and talk about what's new with Schema app. We always like to make sure that you know about everything that's been changing and going on and how it adds value to you. And then also some things that are in the works that we hope you're as excited as we are about. Mark and I are your coaches today. So Mark's the creator of Schema app. And if you talk to anyone or listen to videos, you know that I'm sort of the trainer and everything that's customer facing here at Schema app. So let's jump in. Mark, are you ready?
Mildly, yes.
Mildly. Put him on the spot. So today we're going to talk about services. And Mark, I know you said earlier today, this is your favorite type of class. It's kind of dorky of you, but exciting. Why do you love services so much?
Well, there's a lot of specific properties to the service class that can provide a lot of depth about those services. So, like we'll have an example here today where we talk about a few of these fields, and really our example's fairly limited. And what's actually the flip side of it is all these juicy properties for service pages actually could guide them in kind of adding new content and things to kind of round out their description of what they actually do. But there's just a lot of cool properties actually that I like to use for services. Okay, so let's go in. One of our subscribers gave us an example, right? Jay's Roofing, I believe, is the name of it. Are you going to kind of jump in and talk about the properties you like to use and then sort of use that as an example? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so we have it in here, perhaps. No, we don't have the example in here, Martha, but we'll come back to it. Okay, so this is a service page that's actually describing a roofing repair company. So this company does, well, do obviously new installs of roofs as well as roofing repair. And there's a page that I'd like to show you.
Yep, jayroofing.com, Jaye, roofing.com. Joye. There we go. Just having a moment.
Yeah, it's a problem with having multiple sessions going on in the windows. Okay, so this is a pretty straightforward company. They're a roofing, so they have a homepage. So this would be like their organization. They're somewhere in Columbia, South Carolina, I guess. And then they have roofing services. So what we want to look at was some of these different type of services. And for this one, we have some images. We have a couple of images that we can highlight. There's a location, there's Columbia is mentioned. There's a bit of a preamble, a bit of description in here. There's some questions about roof repair costs. And then financing is another thing here. Roof replacement, I think, is another one. So this one has a question inside of it. This is the one that I kind of dove a little deeper into.
So Mark,
financing options. So yes.
So as you're exploring this, Mark, are you trying to identify the types of services they're offering? When you kind of browse through that, what are you looking for?
Well, I'm just looking to understand like what content do they have on the page that we're actually able to mark up. Like Schema.org has so many properties that you often don't have. You're often limited by the content of the page, and so Google and others, they only really want you to put Schema Markup for that content on your page. So in this case here, we're just limited to, maybe a few different things, but we can call them out. And I think there'd be some opportunities for this website owner to round out their content. So among the questions that I'm looking for a service page, there are several different properties which give you good context about the service. And the first thing that I want to know about is this: does a service page have a dedicated page for it, or is this in a longer list? So a lot of places, a lot of sites might have like, here's our list of services, and there might be 10 of them in a long list, and there might be limited information. But this one is a dedicated page, and so I just wanted to kind of remind people to use hashtag IDs when you're using a list, so therefore you can have multiple data items show up on that one page.
Can you just give us an example, Mark, of what that would look like, or just like talk us through it? So, for example, if I had Schema Apps consulting services all on a page, you might have Schema Apps /services hashtag audit hashtag Google penalty hashtag quality review.
Sure. Yeah.
So that would be sort of an example of a page that has 3 services on it, and you want them each to appear individually. Now, a question I got yesterday, Mark, was around when do you use the hashtags versus creating a list in Schema Markup?
We have a blog post about that. So there's a blog post, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago that I talked about like an item list versus using these kind of high level type of hashtags. So I do prefer the item list, and that's because it gives some structure to the items to say like these are all part of the same, like a collection or a part of a group. Whereas if you're using hashtag IDs, that might signify that they are maybe they're unrelated, so maybe they're not part of the same list. And so I would prefer the item list, and it does have that a little bit of information available to the item list to say like this, maybe the description of the list to give you a bit of context for that list, those list items.
Okay, and we do have a video on YouTube that kind of talks a bit about how to use lists and how that works. So we can kind of refer back there. So back to you, Mark.
So there's the category, which is the first thing. So this website only has 3 different services, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to try to like make categories within those. But there is a way there where you can use like that greater than sign to denote this kind of categorization or subcategories. And so we've actually just made an update to the Schema app to make that a little easier. So Schema.org vocabulary had it as an option that you could have like a thing, which is not really helpful for when you're trying to input data. So we've just kind of simplified it to use like the informal way, which you can just use these hashtags to say like maybe this is under housing, and then that greater than roofing might be like the category if this is a broader general contractor. Service output. So this is a good one for services to kind of describe what the result of that work would be. And so this one might be a repaired roof, or it might be a new roof. And so you could create a thing, and it doesn't have to be any more specific than just to create an actual Schema.org thing. And if you're just describing a new roof, so that could be something with just a name. But this would give search engines a better idea of like what the actual outcome of this particular service is in relation to other services.
And I remember when we've done quite a bit of work for people in the financial space, this becomes interesting because, you know, a loan could be the output, or the output could be a mortgage. So you can actually define, again, what is the service output, to clarify that. And this is one of those ones that I think is kind of fun too, Mark, if I were to admit.
So provider mobility, this is one, it's a newer one where this is kind of suggesting, is this a service that's basically done like in one location? Like you would bring like maybe your bicycle in for repair at a shop, so that might be a service that's done. Whereas, you know, if it's a service of companies that would go to your site, then they're mobile, like they're moving around. And then in Schema terms, they call it dynamic. So you would, in this case, like the roof installation is on the house, or on the building, so it's dynamic. And so you would want to put that. The next one, the provider, absolutely, this one should be, like this one's clear for this page as well. You're just going to make mention that the provider is that home organization, or the main organization that provides it. Hours available, so just kind of one thing to note, that like if you're doing roofing jobs, perhaps they work later into the evening than your office reception, or maybe they work on Saturdays and your hours of your office reception are not exactly the same. So I wouldn't expect them to really be the same as your office hours, but this is where you would put like your opening hour specification. You would want to put like perhaps Monday to Friday, it's 9 till 6 or something rather. And then on Saturday, you might have 9 till 4, or whatever the case may be.
And this is the hours available for the service specifically, right?
Yeah, that's right. So this is the services, like the hours that the service is actually performed. Aggregate rating. Now this one is fantastic if you have reviews about that specific service. However, typically, like you're on Yelp or on Google My Business or on Facebook, you're collecting reviews for the company, and you're not collecting them specifically for the service, unless you're using like a Bazaar Voice or some other tool to collect reviews specifically of the service. But if you are, then that would meet the quality guidelines of the aggregate ratings from Google, and then you'd most definitely want to make sure you get that aggregate rating object in there. So this is, I want to show, see if I can get over to the other, I want to show the page again. So there was something kind of specific on this page where there was a question. So does my insurance policy cover roof replacement? And that doesn't really fit within the service specifically, but we can do something with this actually, which I think would be nice. So it is a question, so there's a schema.org/question. Type, and then the answer is basically this here. And what we can do with that for this company would be to create a new question, and at the beginning it's not connected. So you would go to a question type and then create with the name, does my insurance policy cover roof replacement? And here we're going to use a hashtag with another identifier to say, at this .html web page, there's another data entity with the ID of insurance queue. And that insurance queue is a type question. That insurance queue is about that actual roof replacement page, or that service. And that it has an accepted answer of this insurance A. So insurance A, the actual ID is not really that important. You can put in any ID in there, but you want to create the linkages correctly. So the insurance A is actually that paragraph following the question, and that would be of a type answer. And you would fill in the accepted answer, and you would fill in the name and the description, the body of those question answered. I didn't show that all here, but that's how you would structure it. And then the key though was to relating them all with the about would rate the question to the service, and then the accepted answer relates the question to the answer. And then lastly, there's a little bit section on the financing. So financing options are available. And I thought of two different ways in which you could mark this up. So the first is there's a broker property, and the broker property is basically who's that third party that kind of might be facilitating these transactions. And it's not a great fit here because if we were to actually click through on that on this more information, we're going to basically just say like we work with this third party, but it's basically us. This Green Sky program. Actually, I don't even know if it's a third party, but I would imagine Green Sky credit. Anyway, the point is, it's you're kind of applying through Joy Roofing. So I was thinking of this other way, which would be to create a financial product for that roof financing page. So it's a type financial product, and then the service output of, so financial product, if you're not familiar, is a subtype of service. And so it also has a service output property you could use that says its output is the roof replacement service. So you can kind of work it backwards from the financial product page. And I think that's mostly it. There is this this form on here, which is actually would be considered a service channel. So a service channel might be like the ways in which you would actually acquire or like inquire about a service. So it might be a telephone number, it might be a web form, it might be, you know, a fax number, whatever. Like there's whatever ways in which you would inquire or like kind of get in contact with the agency. So you could create like a little bit of markup around this as a service channel. I'm not sure how much value that would provide, but because it's just like input fields, and that's not really something for schema markup. But you could put that there. Otherwise, Martha?
So in summary, you're saying look at the different across the site on what services are being offered, and then look at the content that exists on the site. And then actually one of the things you can do, and I'll open Schema App to illustrate this, is then you can actually look at Schema App and all the properties you can describe the service, and maybe use that to inform additional information that you might put on the page. Is that right, Mark?
Yes.
And this is, again, sort of where, I don't know if you've watched the interview I did with Jarno, he was saying that you can often use the schema markup to actually inform your information architecture or the information that you put on the page. And I think the services is a good example of where there's a lot of information that the search engines have defined in the schema markup that you have an opportunity to use. But yeah, the information again has to be on that page. And so how do you make sure that that information's on the page? So let's go and have a look here. So you can see like self-employed mortgages. We're just gonna have a look at this data item. And what I wanted to just show was, you know, all the information that is available here. And we haven't gone into detail about like how to put all the information in here. And so that's something that maybe we can do next time. But you can see, you know, much as there's not required and recommended, since there's no rich snippet specifically that Google outlines for services. Here you can see some of the things that we've talked about. You know, audience is also interesting depending on who you're selling to. Available channels, this is what Mark was talking about, like channels that you can call out. So here you can see it's like a phone web channel. Area served, or sort of where that service is provided.
And that would be then Columbia, actually. So you want to create a data item or just use the Wikipedia identifier for Columbia.
Yeah. And then you can see the other. So again, the list is always in there, and we often get asked and say, oh man, there's, you know, a lot of information you can put in here. And the answer is, well, yes. the schema.org vocabulary has said, you know, these are all the things we're interested in knowing about the service. And then it's really a matter of you sort of determining what's on the page, but then also what other information you may want to add to the page to best describe what that is about. Questions from the group on services? All right. So maybe we'll switch gears now and go into Q&A around sort of what questions you have or examples you'd like us to go through in order to help you sort of proceed in your schema markup. And then we'll save the last about 7 or 8 minutes to go through some updates with Schema app. So what questions do you have, or what are some things that you're challenged with today? One that we often get asked is troubleshooting deployments of Schema Markup. So if you're using our WordPress plugin or Google Tag Manager and you're not seeing that right away, what are some causes that can cause that? And so we'll be publishing a blog today or tomorrow that kind of goes through how you troubleshoot that. One of the things that we've seen come up over and over again is caching. So if you're doing caching on the website, in order for that deployment to happen, you need to clear that cache. Another kind of challenge we had today was someone who had an outdated SSL certificate, and so that needed to be updated prior to the deployment happening. And with Google Tag Manager, often people forget to publish the tag. So they'll add the tag, but then they'll forget to publish it across the different sites. And so those are some of the reasons why it's not deployed. And then the other one is sort of more basic, where the URI, so that unique reference indicator that you fill out when you're first setting up your data item. If you don't put in the right URL there, sometimes we're seeing people put in HTTP when it's really HTTPS. And so that's sort of another thing that you want to have a look at. So we do have a question here from Kelly. It says, some of the sites are on Weebly. Do you have thoughts on the best way to implement the markup?
I forget exactly about Weebly. The way which we use for Squarespace is a JavaScript implementation. So we have a JavaScript tag and that you can put into the site, which loads the data. And if you can't add JavaScript to Weebly, then you're probably out of luck, unfortunately. You might, like, it's been a while since I've done anything with Weebly, but maybe there's some themes or like some built-in stuff that actually helps you to organize your page content around a certain type of content, like maybe it's a product or maybe it's an event. But it's been too long and I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, Wix is one that we haven't found a way to integrate yet, so it's really sort of locked down and doesn't give us that option. Squarespace, we have a specific blog on how to do that, and I'll make sure to make a note about Weebly and see if we can't get an answer. So maybe while you have questions, we'll just finish and share some of the things that are new with Schema app. So you may have seen us tweeting or talking about how there's a new version of Schema Markup out. And so you may say, what? What does that mean? So remember, Schema Markup is a vocabulary. And so the standards body reviews submissions of questions or people asking to add additional properties or additional types. And then every couple months they do a new release. So at the beginning of, was it the very end of March, Mark? It was about 2 weeks ago, right?
Roughly.
2 weeks ago, they announced that they're releasing Schema version 3.2. And so it has quite a few new types around brokerage account, exchange rate. So really in that financial space, describing mortgages, loans, repayments, currencies. So that's sort of new types that are in. It also has called out new areas in Web API. And so this Web API is really, I think, one step sort of forward in developing a whole branch of Schema Markup around technology or around the Internet of Things. And so those of you that sell technical products, this will be interesting sort of as we see them build out how we describe the technology. They've also added a new area for a distillery. And new classes, I missed the very top here, around menus, courses, and claim reviews. So menu will apply to anything that has a menu, so restaurants, and be able to go in quite a bit more detail. And then courses around training, so there's a whole new area there. Claim reviews is sort of an interesting one in that it's just a new type of review where it's saying that you can actually signify that it's been sort of a data check on it for reviews.
So it's interesting. how those classes came to be, because it's basically Google decided they're going to create a rich feature, a rich card for claim reviews and then courses, and then they pretty much accelerated the class into the live version of Schema. So we pretty much saw, like, there was a proposal, and then very quickly after that there was a rich snippet, and then it got pushed into the into the vocabulary, which so you want to have a look at those ones if you're looking in that space, and especially at what they're looking for, what they need for a rich snippet.
Now I've put the release notes here, although it is a little interesting, sort of how they go ahead and describe it. Our summary here sort of provides you a bit more examples of sort of what that looks like. Now you may be asking sort of when is that going to be available in Schema app? And so I'm happy to report that it is already available in Schema app. So this is probably our fastest update to our vocabulary, and we're going to now be able to basically update dynamically as schema.org updates.
We have a slide for that, Martha, if I could pull it up.
I'm waiting. So now all of you already have access to Schema version 3.2, including those pending classes, because the pending classes really mean that it's sort of in the final review before it gets added to the overall vocabulary. And so you'll be able to sort of pull that in now. Other things that are new and coming, and as soon as just stop sharing, that are coming. So many of you, we've been asked sort of around review widgets, or how do we integrate with third-party review widgets? And we've reached out to a couple of these widget creators and asked them if we could integrate with them so that you can properly do reviews and tie them to the service or product, and then also tie them to your organization. And unfortunately, they said, no, we're not interested in integrating with Schema app. And so we just decided to build a review widget ourselves and have it integrate with Schema app. So now you'll have the ability to add a review widget on your WordPress site and tie that directly into your Schema markup. So this will sort of hopefully provide or solve a real problem for those of you that want to do reviews well and dynamically, and we'll continue to kind of build that out based on your feedback. So Schema.org 3.2 is live, like I said. We're also just about to release that Shopify plugin. So we're done doing beta, and now we're just bringing it to market. So you should see an announcement in the next 2 weeks around that Shopify plugin. So those of you that are doing e-commerce, so some of you said that you focus more on e-commerce than on services. And so that Shopify plugin will further add to our WooCommerce plugin to help do markup there. Our semantic analytics is also ready to go general availability. Again, if you're interested in this, this is mostly interesting for people who have lots of content, whether it be products, locations, or blogs. And it allows you to use the properties you put in Schema Markup to slice that data in Google Analytics. So if you're interested and want sort of a preview or to start using it immediately, just reach out to us at support@hunchmanifest.com and we'll help you do that. And then automated article topic markup. So how do we make it so that your articles have a better sort of understanding of what they're about, and how do we automate a lot of that?
Wait, can I go back?
Sure.
So we had some technical difficulties with my monitor. So I just wanted to make sure that it was understood that from now on, all of the Schema.org updates are immediately published within Schema app. So there'll be no more waiting like the 2-week kind of period last time. And so every day we're actually going out and grabbing the latest versions of those. And then we do some transformation and load them into Schema app. So then what's actually most exciting, which I should take a minute to pause on, is the pending vocabulary. And so this is basically the stuff that's will soon be pushed to the core, and it's been already accepted as it's been through some reviews, and And I think it's really quite fun, actually, that you can have a look at all of these pending type of resources and actually be able to switch your schema.org vocabulary within Schema app to grab those pending things. So in here, there's a whole section around pending. And so if you were to actually go into the pending vocabulary, you'll see a bunch of these different new types and new properties. And so it's not really clear when these things will get pushed into the core, but if you're in a kind of an early access program and you want to modify some of these things, they're available to you now and updated daily. So you would go into your settings, and just as a reminder, you can switch over to one of these other versions. So the Schema.org core version 3.2, which was just recently released, and then the pending one. I put a little warning in there just because, you know, there might be changes yet into those, but it's now available. If you were to click on that and save changes, then Martha would see all of those new properties and fields updated daily in her editor.
So we've also released something around open linked data. And so Mark, I know you're really excited about this and sort of how it can help businesses. Do you want to talk a bit about sort of what is open linked data and where is it a value that we now sort of have that option of doing that?
So the open linked data is something that was kind of conceived of around 10 years ago, mostly with Tim Berners-Lee. And then after that, there was a W3C group, or kind of a worldwide web standards group, got together and started thinking about how do we actually start publishing data on the web in a way that's machine readable, in a way that's kind of based on some sort of standards, and in a way which can really speed the ways in which you can partner with people and also you know, even start to reach across and do integrations with your third-party providers and vendors. So as an example, if you're manufacturing like barbecues and you maybe sell in 20 different countries around the world, rather than trying to create your own APIs for people to gain access to your product features, like in the specifications, or perhaps you already send them like a PDF document or something, you can put the information that's already available on your website into Schema Markup, and using the WordPress plugin, you would be able to provide that as a machine readable way. So for people who are selling those barbecues and they want access to that data, but they don't really want to go through all the hoops to kind of process and parse all of your text documents, they would now have the option to basically directly access those from your website. So it turns your website into something of an API tool, or which can provide just new ways to kind of link up with your partners. We have lots more information on that in a blog post published earlier today. So you'll see a bit more there and how you can do it. And it's basically it's in a feature which is in the settings of Schema app in the WordPress plugin. So if you want more information on that, check the blog, and there's a few other resources. And if you're still further interested, just reach out to us.
So the last thing, if there's no other questions, we always like to show sort of like, what does our roadmap look like today? And you know, what are some things that we're working on? And so this is sort of what we've been working on in Q1, so calendar year Q1, which just wrapped up. And our focus sort of as we go into Q2 is really continuing to use usability, tooltips, and automation rules. So this is gonna help you not send us an email at support@hunchmanifest.com, or not have to watch our videos, but instead sort of make the tool a bit more intuitive and maybe remove some of the options that you don't need to know about to simplify a bit. We do get the feedback often that it is a little confusing, and so we're really committed to making those improvements and making that better. Another area we're going to work on this quarter is around notifications. So how do we tell you when we see something that needs to be updated in your account, so we're not assuming that you're going to just log in and sort of review all those notifications. And so we'll be working on some notifications there, and we'll be asking for some feedback on What are the types of things that you'd like to see? And with that is around sort of health monitoring. The idea that if you manage multiple domains in your account, can we give you a sense on the overall health of that schema markup for that domain? So today we do it by data item. Our goal is to kind of give you a dashboard to look across the domains that you manage and be able to kind of see where you should focus your time. Semantic analytics I already spoke about, as well as a review widget. Another new feature that we're working on is called the template creator. And so this is really a gap that we have today in our service, that we want to be able to provide you something similar to the Google data highlighter, but a professional level that gives you the options to do a more robust schema markup on that. And so we're working on that. We don't have a kind of sort of an estimated time of delivery, but it's something that we believe is essential in your toolkit for doing schema markup, in addition to sort of the custom markup that you're doing today manually, as well as our bulk upload capabilities. Shopify, I already talked about that general availability, and then we're also working on an Adobe add-on and working sort of on how we sort of start developing that for integration with Adobe Experience Manager. That's all I had for you today. We did get some good feedback from you around some topics of the future. So I think next one we'll talk a bit about sort of how do you measure the value of schema markup. And we'll basically talk about some different reports that you can use, as well as how semantic analytics can help you show that value. So I think we'll do that on the next one, and I'll send out those agendas prior so that you can plan to attend. All of these coaching calls are recorded, and you will be emailed after the call with those recordings so that you can review it at your leisure. Thank you for being a Schema app customer. Again, if you have any questions, you can always send us a note at support@hunchmanifest.com. And Martha Van Berkel here, joined by the creator of Schema app, Mark. And again, we're open to your feedback and ideas. So feel free to open that conversation. Have a great day.